Everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do a bit of a modernization video regarding the taillights on this car. And we're going to update these to LEDs, including the flashers, which means we're also going to have to change the flasher relay, which is a bit tricky to get to, so stick with me. Here we go. So we'll start simple. We're going to deal with the bulbs first, and then we'll deal with the flasher, which is up under the dash, a little bit later. So with the bulbs, you're going to need to take this housing off. There are 6 screws. It's 3 across the top, 3 across the bottom, Phillips head. You're going to pull those out, and then the entire housing will kind of pop out. There is a wire that sticks down, so you'll have to be a little cautious with that. On one side, you're going to need to lift kind of up and out, and on the other side, you have to kind of tilt down and out. I'll show you why. So this is what the back of the taillight housing on the DeLorean looks like, and it has this circuit board that runs all the way across the back, and then that wiring harness. Now it's the same circuit board for the left and the right hand side. The only difference is how they flip it. So on the driver's side, the left side, this plug is on the bottom. On the passenger side, this plug will actually be up on the top because the whole board will be flipped over. So if you're on the one where it's on the left hand side, you'll have to kind of lift the light, sorry about the camera work, kind of up and out. If you're on the passenger side, because that wire is sticking up, you have to kind of tilt the bottom out and pull it down. Either way though, you're going to free this entire assembly by taking out the 6 screws and then pull this plug off. It just has a simple pinch deal on it, so just kind of pinch it and that'll wiggle free like that. And then you can take the whole assembly and go to the next part. Alright, to get to the bulbs, we have to actually take this entire circuit board off. And if you look, you'll notice it's got these little tabs that are holding it in place. There are 3 of them, as well as 2 little guiding pins, and you can tell from the channel here that this whole board is going to slide. So what we need to do is you go to the side that doesn't have the tab, so tab here, this side doesn't, and you can kind of go like this and just pop the board up and over this tab just to get it a little bit loose, give it some room to slide, otherwise the stop is going to prevent it from moving. And then, and this takes 2 hands, you're just going to sort of wiggle and slide, do it with 1 hand. Just slide this board out and get it free of those tabs. Right, so now all 3 tabs are disengaged. And then there are these alignment pins here, so you have to wiggle it just a little to get it to come free. Then the entire circuit board will lift off and give you access to your bulbs. Now we have replacement bulbs for all of these. It uses a bulb 1156 for this one, this one, this one, and this one. And then this guy is a 5007, at least in the incandescent. We're going to be switching all of these to LED. I have a collection of different LEDs, some from DeLorean Go and some that I just already have. So we'll deal with that. The hardest one to find with LEDs is this one. Sylvania actually doesn't even make one of these in LED, so you'll have to find this one somewhere else if you're using Sylvania as your supplier. And yeah, so we'll swap that out. So we're going to switch all of these bulbs out, and then we'll be able to reinstall. Okay, so my LED bulbs are installed, so now the reinstallation of the circuit boards give me the same as the disinstallation. There's a few things you might want to do while this is apart. Can clean these connectors and clean the plug up as well, but we're just going to swap this back in. So essentially flip it back over and place it into the holes for the bulbs themselves. Get these pins lined up here. Make sure your guide pins are set there. And then what you'll end up doing is kind of pushing down on this and sliding it into these tabs, and it'll sort of snap into place. You just want to be a little gentle with it, especially if you're using the original parts like this, because it can be a little bit brittle just after all of the years this car has been sitting and dealing with heat. So we'll get these tabs surfaced. Usually what I've found is you end up kind of getting these placed in first by just pushing down gently and getting them set. And then this last one just have to ease down and then it'll snap into place. All right, when it's all set, again, we've got it back underneath the tabs here. Then we can take it back to the car and reinstall it. So we'll put the plug on, run the 6 screws in, and at that point all of our bulbs are updated. At least it will be once we do the other side as well. We will have to deal with the flasher though, because with the LEDs, it's going to cause your blinker to hyper flash. So I was doing a quick bulb test before we can go. So I've got my running lights on and my blinkers going much brighter than they were with the stock incandescent bulbs. The reason my blinkers are blinking nice and slow is I've got hazards on, which doesn't require the flasher. If I were to switch to the regular turn signals, they're going to blink about twice that fast. Okay, so this is what I mean by hyper flashing. Essentially this. So you see how my blinker is just completely freaking out versus what it would do if I turned on the hazards, right? Normal speed, and then hyper speed. The reason this happens is the LED bulbs put out less resistance than the incandescent. So it's telling the flash module that there's a bulb out. So it's blinking it twice as fast to try to tell me, the driver, that I need to replace the bulb, which is obviously not the case for what I'm doing. What I need to do is replace the flasher with this. So this is an updated flash module that I got from DeLorean Go, specifically for LED lights, and essentially doesn't have that function built into it, or not in the same way. The other way that you can do this is to add resistors to the lights, or to find LED bulbs that have resistors already built in, which will trick the stock flasher into thinking it's an incandescent bulb. I know I'm dealing with the original flasher in this car. It is 40 years old, so I'm going to swap it out anyway. This is like $3. The problem with this is it's really hard to get to. It's actually under the dash, right about here. So we need to get under the dashboard and look up behind the binnacle here, and there's a flasher tucked right back in here. To do that, we need to kind of lay on our back in this space and look up under the dash, or take out a bunch of things. Now you can do this by feel, if you kind of reach up there, if you know what you're feeling for. That is not something that's going to work for me, and I want to be able to show it to you. So I need to get in there. I'm 6'1". That's not a big space. So to do that, I'm going to need to take the seat out of the car. Luckily, it's pretty easy to take the seats out of this car. Underneath the car, there are 4 bolts that are sticking down. So those 2 there, and these 2 up here. And if we release those, it'll allow the seat to pull free. So I'm going to grab some sockets and we'll get that done. So the bolts are pretty easy. They're just 13 millimeter. On my car at least, I don't know if there's a better way to do this, but you do have to remove the seatbelt hold down as well, because that bracket for the bottom of the seat is going to get caught on that as you try to lift the seat out. So I'm going to pull that out. That's just an 11/16. Comes out pretty easy. So I'll pull that out, and then the seat should just lift straight up. All right, our seat is removed and set aside. Seat's pretty clean underneath mine, so this was taken out not that long ago. I kind of expected there to be a lot more dirt under the seat, but there isn't. So now I can lay down in this space and get up under the dash, which is what I'm going to do now. I'm not sure how I'm going to hold my camera while I'm doing that, but yeah, we'll figure that out. All right, well, thankfully I'm alone at home, so nobody had to see the ridiculously ungraceful process that was. But this is underneath the car, rather underneath the dashboard. So here's the steering column. And what we're looking for is actually up here. So let me get the light on so you can see it. All right, so focus is going to be a little bit weird, but right up here. So this is the steering column. This is the main vent that goes out to the door. And kind of above all of that, this black box right here is our relay. And it's in this little plastic plug. That whole thing is hooked to a little metal bracket, which is, at least in my car, just sort of free floating up here. So this is 40-year-old plastic that I'm be working with. I'm sorry about the focus. It's the best my camera's going to do. So the trick with all of that is that it's likely to be pretty brittle. You want to be careful because you really don't want to break the plug or the relay when you're pulling this off. So what I'm going to do, which will require both hands, is use a small flat tip precision screwdriver just to get between the relay and the plug, and just ever so gently I'm going to pry these two apart because they are fairly stuck, and then my new relay will plug directly into that spot. So wish me luck. Here we go. So I was able to get the flasher removed. Unfortunately, I wasn't smart enough to bring the replacement part with me before I crawled down here under the dashboard. So now I get to extricate myself, grab the replacement part off of the table, and then climb back in here. So take it from me, make sure that before you do all of this, and there's the plug right up there, make sure you have your extra part with you. All right, so I've got my replacement part So now for the reinstall. So you see this is not an easy place to be. I'm 6'1", 220. You can get down here. It's not great. If you have any friends who are shorter and have smaller hands, this would be a great time to get them to come over and assist you. But get this reinstalled and get out of here before all the blood rushes to my head. Good times. So I'll give her a test before we put the seat back in and put everything back together. Nice slow blinks. That's going to wrap us up for this project. Thanks for joining me. Not too hard to do. Getting to the flasher is tricky, and like I said, if you've got somebody of smaller stature with tiny hands, definitely invest in their time for this project to make life a lot easier. But it's done. She works. It's a lot brighter than it was before. Definitely a fan of the upgrade. Just in general, 80s tech on rear taillights was not overly bright, so nice that people can actually see this car when they're coming up behind me. So this being the end of a DIY dad video, I of course owe you a dad joke. So I was thinking, given time travel and stuff, why don't photons ever need to check bags? Because they're always traveling light. That one's a little sciencey and heady, so let's go lowbrow for the next one. What's brown and sounds like a bell? Dong! All right, remember, with any DIY project, it doesn't have to be perfect. No one's going to see the flaws unless you point them out to them. Most important step is just to do it. Stay safe, drive safe, catch you on the next one in the future or the past.